Well, I'm very happy to have this session that we have today again after 2 weeks. Like life passes in chunks, and
Yeah.
one of the how you can call it the milestones in this passing of life is our bi-weekly meeting. So
So
it's a
bi-weekly meeting.
bi-weekly
Let me know
union.
I'm a milestone in your life.
Yes, no, you are. So because it's yes, it goes in pieces. Another 2 weeks pass, and another
Yeah.
2 weeks pass, and
It goes by so quickly. Every weekend that we're on, I'm like, what? It's already been 2 weeks? Time
insane,
is just
insane.
flying. Yeah.
The speed of things is
Incredible.
insane, but it's now insane. When I was younger, when I was in my 20s, time didn't pass that fast, but now it passes like
I
a
feel it
night.
has something to do with the age.
It
Yeah.
certainly does.
Yeah,
It
I agree.
certainly does. It's crazy. It's incredibly fast. So yes, I chose the topic today of clarity. So I'm very happy that you also agreed to have this topic with me. Clarity is for me essential. Is the key word. It's like when you cook a food and something is missing. Most of the times is salt. So once you put a little bit of salt, everything that you cook becomes more tasty suddenly. And
Clarity
that
is soft.
is, yes, clarity is the salt of life, the salt of communication, certainly,
Mm.
but also in a deeper level, the salt of life is that ingredient that makes things make sense. But it's more complex than people realize.
Okay.
But as a salesperson, I have to say this: the more clear you are, the more crystal clear and simple you are, the more success you have,
Mm.
because the other person understands what you are talking about. And when the other person understands what you are talking about, he feels more confident and more secure to make steps forward.
Yeah.
The contrary of clarity is ambiguity, which also often is being used to achieve certain purposes. Ambiguity is the enemy of clarity. In Greece, they had a very famous politician, Mr. Varoufakis, which was a superstar during the crisis and was one of the advocates of Greece going out of the Eurozone. He himself is a very rich man. He wanted Greece to go out of the Eurozone, which would have meant the disaster of the country.
Yeah.
And this guy spoke about constructive ambiguity. That is, I don't know, a very crazy concept to understand. How can ambiguity be constructive? But he was also right in a certain extent.
Okay. Constructive. Okay. I don't know what it looks like, constructive ambiguity.
It's
But
very
I mean,
explain.
clearly this person was ambiguous and he was hoping that the lack of clarity was making his political statements quite opaque, no?
The people that most of the time speak about constructive ambiguity, like it was, first of all, the constructive refers to who? To himself, obviously, or to the group that he represents.
Usually that's how it works.
Yes, I mean, because I cannot see any other way why ambiguity can be constructive. Most of the times, and in contrary to what I say, ambiguity and the ambiguity equals non-clarity.
Yeah.
It's exactly the opposite of being constructive. You cannot be constructive if you don't understand things, if things are somehow foggy. So
Yeah.
you need to have a clear picture of where you are standing, and 1 + 1 = 2. Now, but constructive ambiguity, where is the constructive on ambiguity? The constructive on ambiguity is that ambiguity leaves many options on the table. So you want to introduce ambiguity in a topic in order to choose at the end the version of reality that serves your purposes, which are crystal clear and not ambiguous at all. I don't know if that all makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does. I mean, it's there's research that shows that people who like use very complicated words or very pompous words come across as less intelligent than people who are able to express themselves with very simple words and very clearly. And so I think this person was trying to be that, showing off his intelligence or showing off his intellect higher than anybody else. But in reality, by doing that, he was actually having the contrary effect, because it's proven that if people don't understand what you're saying, you're perceived as less intelligent than somebody else who could come along and say the same thing, but in a way that's clear for a 10-year-old to understand.
There is a big point in what you are saying. Ambiguity and talking unclear gambles on the people's you can say civic courtesy, on the people's insecurity. So if you are in a room where there are 100 people inside the room and you talk ambiguous, nobody, probably not probably, most certainly nobody understands anything, but everybody is ashamed to raise their hand and say, 1 second, I do not understand, because everybody pretends to understand.
Yeah. So lots of politicians do that on purpose because they want to create this feeling of insecurity. And
there is a way to escape. I think there are even schools where they teach them how not to answer questions. So you ask a specific question and you don't receive a specific answer. You receive,
learning how to not communicate. That's really
you learn how to escape a situation by using words and concepts that they don't make any sense or are confusing.
Yeah. In French they call that the wooden tongue. I don't know if that exists. I don't know if it's an English expression as well. But in French, when the politicians, avoid answering a question by misdirecting or asking another question, they call that the wooden tongue.
There is a school behind that. They learn that. It's a skill that needs to be learned.
I'm sure. No doubt that it's a skill.
It's absurd, but it is true.
A very frustrating skill if you're the person asking the question, I'm sure.
It's insanely manipulative, their speech.
So, talking about necessity of clarity. So, I mean, I think we went a bit into the political arena here, but elsewhere, outside, like in sales and leadership, why is it so important?
What regards sales, clarity is that that element that gives confidence to what you are saying and makes also the other person to feel confident in order to proceed to a transaction.
Yeah.
If things are not crystal clear, then things in sale become more complicated. Mm-hmm. Now, in our modern age, where we evolve and we sell through discovery calls and online meetings, and what we sell through these channels of communication most of the times is something complicated, clarity becomes even more important. Now, can the salesperson have the understanding on selling something very complex in order to give crystal clear answers? The answer here is it's not necessary. And that is where a lot of people are getting confused. And they're getting confused in what regards the product knowledge, which is something that is overinflated on importance. So if you do not understand the complexity of the solution that you are selling, it doesn't mean that you are not going to be crystal clear, because you can
Yeah.
simply say, look, I am on the sales team. I'm not an expert
Mm.
on all the details of this complex software. However, I want to organize this meeting in order to answer with the expert exactly all the questions that you have. And
Mm.
that is an honest and crystal clear answer.
Mhm.
It's a crystal clear approach. Uh, so I don't know if that makes sense, everything that
Yeah.
I say.
No, it does.
Yes,
Absolutely. I
yes.
mean, I think it's about trust. You can't build trust if the person doesn't feel that you're being genuine and honest. And the way you do that is by being clear and transparent in your communication. And it's the same in leadership. If you can clearly communicate to your teams your vision, your expectations, they won't be able to follow you. They won't be able to execute. They won't feel like they understand where they're going, and therefore they won't get there. So it's I think in communication, being able to express yourself clearly and concisely is like a number one skill for a leader, definitely.
Absolutely, Maria. That is so important, because in the reality is that you can escape. You can have a communication where you can escape, like the politicians that we talked before.
Mhm.
You can end the communication and go home, but no, no, you didn't convince, and you didn't convince because you yourself don't have the answer.
Yeah,
In order to convince, you need to have the answer. It's not only to say something and escape.
I think
And
too. Sorry.
yeah, no, no, that is
I
what
think,
gives the weight on communication.
yeah,
The
I think it's bringing up also the fact that, as an entrepreneur, when you're selling yourself or your product to a client, if you're not clear on not just your product, but why you're doing what you're doing, what your message is, what you're positioning. They talk about storytelling and all these things. If you're not clear on all these bases for yourself, it's very hard to convince a client to buy from you, because you're not, if you're not clear, you're not able to communicate in a way that's convincing and that's going to build trust with your client. So as you said earlier on, even if it's not about the knowledge of the product, but even the knowledge of you, why you're doing what you're doing, what it is you're offering, what the client's going to get out of it, what are the benefits, all these things. If you can't clearly express them, you're not going to be able to build that trust and that buy into whatever you're trying to sell your client.
it is about it is about the essence is confidence, clarity. When you understand something so that you can explain that with simple words,
Yeah.
a, not only a product or a concept, but the whole why, what is the purpose of me doing those things, and having also an answer on the difficult questions if you are challenged. Once you have this clarity, first of all, you will be very confident, and this confidence is going to make you also to insist and turn around people that have doubts, because you will be in the position to prove them
Mm.
that you have a point. I don't say to prove them that you are right,
Yeah.
but to prove them that you have a point.
Well, you can clearly express your point of view in a way that's understandable for the other person.
Yes, many times the other persons, you know, uh, uh, things are not simple. Things are not simple. I mean, that's a long discussion again. We go what is simple and what is complex, and but
Yeah.
I see, for example, many times I send direct messages via LinkedIn to people that potentially could benefit of my services. So some of them don't like that kind of approach. That's fine. They have their opinion. But the reason why I do it, it's not... so their answer is an answer that cannot see behind the surface of the message. I do that intentionally, with intention, and with a lot of thoughts and statistics behind. Okay, so when you throw something to somebody because you've heard that, or because you think on a very narrow level of thinking, don't you ever thought like a little bit deeper to see why this person is doing that? What is... because I have the answer.
Yeah.
And the answer is the statistics and the results that it brings.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, some people are bombarded with these kind of messages. So
yes.
I think I get it. If you can be, sometimes it can be a bit, you don't want to read them anymore.
Yes. Nothing is absolute. Okay, I do understand, because I'm getting bombarded too with the same message. And
and then some are better than others. But some are clearly not. Clearly, talking about clarity, some have clearly not even looked at your profile before they email you.
Yes, but that is exactly what they say. They don't look at your profile. Yes, but Maria, listen. When I find, let's say, I think that my solution gives value to this category of people, let's say CTOs in that specific industry. And if I go on Sales Navigator on LinkedIn, I can find a couple of thousands of people that equal the parameters that I set on. So those people, not certainly, but with a higher probability, they potentially have interest in what I'm saying. Now, if I go to each one's profile, then certainly I will be in the position to take half of them out, and not even bother messaging them for the first or the second or the third reason. But I cannot do that because it's so time consuming. So I'd rather get the negative.
You go. Okay. You're that kind of guy. Okay.
That's the way you need to see it. I cannot go. I mean, if you have like 30 people, of course you can go and check the profiles and then message the 10 of them. But if you have 2,000, you will not do it. I want to say here one more thing about clarity. There was a speech of Denzel Washington, the American actor, which said that you have to have clear goals in your life, because if he made the metaphor, if you don't have clear goals, you are like a ship that leaves the port and is just drifting. You need to know where you go. What is your goal? What do you want to achieve? What do you want? And everything else should be constructed with this goal in the center. If you don't have a goal, a specific goal, so I want to do this by then, and I will do whatever it takes in order to achieve my goal. So if you don't have this kind of clarity when you aim, you will not arrive at your goal.
You need to focus. Otherwise, if you focus on it, it will happen. If you don't, it won't.
Yes, and people that have clear goals and they work.
Clear goals and then clear action plans too. Because having the goal is nice, but if you don't have a strategy to get to your goal,
but you need to start with the goal first.
Absolutely.
And then build the strategy. And then you see.
And then execute.
And then execute.
Do something about it.
And a lot of people, there are people that they lack on the one thing, the other lack on the execution part, and so on. But you see, we come to a paradox here, and we come to the paradox that the more educated somebody is, the more he suffers from what is called paralysis through analysis. So he analyzes, he thinks deeper, 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 and at the end he takes no action.
Yeah.
So you need to put a depth in your. You need to construct artificial um, goals on a setting that is going to empower you to act towards these goals. Because if you start thinking and analyzing it might be this and that, and we have like 100 options, and each option has another 10 sub options below it, you will not do anything.
Yeah, no, you have to be decisive at some point.
Yes,
It's
yes.
yeah, and take action. That's
Take
whatever you want to do. Yeah, it starts with action. Whatever, no matter how small that action is, you need to get the momentum going towards whatever you're trying to achieve. Absolutely.
take action and embrace failure.
Yeah.
That is another thing that a lot of people are afraid. They are afraid to fail. They are afraid of rejection. There is no other way. There is no other way. The one that doesn't do anything is never going to fail.
Yeah.
But you stay stagnated. So once you move one step forward, you will be criticized, you will fail, but at the end, those are the people that make things happen.
Yeah, you will grow also.
You will gain experience, of course, and you will become better. And you start something bad, and then 1 year after, this bad is, well, acceptable, and a year after that it's okay, and the year after that is good, and after 5 years is exceptional.
Yeah, it's consistency. Yeah?
Yes,
Believe in the journey.
Absolutely believe in the journey. I think clarity, it's a key factor
Yeah.
for success. I don't know from your side, because I can imagine for your work, when you have to deal with leaders, that maybe it's not so easy for them to be critical with themselves.
Yeah, self-awareness is hard, I think, for everyone, not just leaders.
Yeah.
But it is difficult, and I think it's difficult to do it alone, to become self-aware on your own. I'm not trying to sell my services, but lots of leaders ask for coaches because it's very difficult to see your own blind spots and get clarity around what you need to improve if you don't get feedback, if you don't have somebody helping you uncover these things. And being self-aware is the foundation of a good leader. Being able to understand what you're good and what you're not good at, and bring in the people to complement you in the places where you're not good is super important. So getting clarity on yourself is, for me, a key. It's the basis of good leadership, and that's what I do with my clients. We always start getting clarity on, okay, what are the blind spots? What are the skill gaps? How can we work on them? What do we need to improve on? And the number of people who have never taken the time to sit back and do that exercise of clarity on themselves. And when they do it, something very basic, sometimes their mind is blown, that they were like, oh, I never thought about it. I never took the time to sit back and think about, my personal life, my professional life, how everything comes together, where I'm happy, where I'm unhappy, how I'm doing, what I'm doing well, what I'm not doing well, how could I improve? So many people are just like their head in the, I don't know, the expression in French is head in the bike handles.
Yes.
I don't know in English, but like they're just working, and they're not thinking about that. They're just getting the job done, and they're not realizing that they need to do that and get that clarity to become better leaders, to lead their teams better.
But let me ask you here something that I think it also plays a big role. So the higher you go in the hierarchy of a company, right? you are surrounded with people that are yes men, and they tell you everything that you say, there's no critique. And at the end, you start to believe and you start to live in a bubble because you cannot see outside of the bubble, the reality anymore. No one wants to critique you because it might not end good for you.
Yeah, it's but there's a few things, like the higher you go, the less people there is. So obviously, and then there's internal politics, that happen. And people who could give you feedback are probably the people working for you. And most leaders don't want to ask the people that they're managing for feedback, which is a bad thing. I mean, you should be asking everybody for feedback, but most of them don't. And therefore, yes, they don't realize what they're, and to be fair, even the people around them, their peers, probably don't notice their blind spots either. It's because they have the same ones, and they're not working with them directly, or they're like their peers, but they're not under them. They're not having to execute, so they're not seeing the flaws there might be or what might be missing in their leadership skills, because they're not experimenting it as someone who's working for them. So I think there's several things happening when you get to a certain level in a company that makes it even more difficult to get that feedback and to get that honest feedback and helpful feedback. And that's why that self-awareness of realizing that maybe I need to ask for help, whether it's internal, going to someone in HR, or getting an external coach, or, going to your boss, going to your team and saying, I want feedback on my performance. I want feedback on how I can get better, become a better leader for you. If you don't do any of that, you just continue going as you are. And when something happens, it will be like, where did that come from? I didn't realize there was even an issue.
But I think in all big organizations and corporations, a corporation as a big organization, what happens? There are some fundamental um, challenges, problems, issues that, depending on the culture of the country, they might be magnified or maybe are in the position to solve them easier. So what I want to say here is, so you work within an organization, a big organization. So your destiny, that is why I cannot work in a big corporation. Your destiny depends if somebody likes you, if your superior likes you, or he doesn't like you. And
That's
now by talking about this, so I remember once talking about what is the typical office scenario in Germany, for example, and in the United States. In Germany, the door of the manager, of the CEO, it's a closed door. Mm-hmm. So he goes inside his office and he closes the door.
Yeah.
You refer to him also as many times as Herr or doctor. So it's very important for him to have the title, if he has a doctor degree, of course.
Yeah,
to have
it's cultural.
It's cultural. Now, in an American office, the CEO of the company wears blue jeans. His door is open unless he wants to discuss something privately with somebody. So in a culture like that, where you feel so close to the CEO and the CEO feels so strong that doesn't need to have all these titles and suits and closed doors and big cars to feel important. I think that's one element of why American companies are so successful. It's a mindset.
Yeah, I think, how am I going to say this? Having a door open is nice, but that doesn't stop the person from maybe not being accessible or being, or acting the same way as the person with the closed door. So I think, I get the physical symbol is good, but the reality, it's with the person, how they behave. It's their behavior and their leadership style. And you know, you have people like the German leader you described in America as well. And it's not because they're
Oh,
wearing
yes.
good things that they're not attached to their title,
Yes.
their car, and all their benefits, and going off to the Hamptons on the weekend. So wherever a culture, I mean, the different cultures have these different expectations and behaviors. At the end of the day, it's how the leader behaves with his team and with his peers, and how he interacts with everybody, that's going to set the tone in the business. And a leader a CEO who encourages people to have a culture of feedback and speak together, not be afraid to speak up, is going to create a much better work environment for his team than someone who doesn't.
Yes, so leadership cannot be enforced.
No.
Of course. And I think also, as a salesperson, I think also because there is a misconception often about salespeople. The salesperson is somebody that is going to use ambiguity in order to lure you to something, to buy something that you don't want to buy. In my life experience, I can tell you that in the free market and with the people that I had to deal in globally, in all the countries that I spoke, those were the most honest people at the end, and the people that had a clear and very honest communication, way more honest than you will receive from a big entity or a public organization and so on.
Well, it's clear you're against the corporations.
Absolutely. I'm against not only the corporate, but I'm against I think if you leave the world free and let the people behave with as less control as possible, you will get the best out of them. That is what I believe. Every interaction and every control, it doesn't really work. I mean, it's a long discussion. It's not that simple as
I think that's not something we're going to solve today. I mean,
we will not solve it today. Certainly, it's very deep. But at the end, at the bottom line, you go there, you come there.
Yeah, I believe you need some structure.
Yes. Oh, of course. It cannot be completely Wild West.
That's where it becomes complicated.
Yes, no.
That's where the stuff becomes slippy.
You need like a skeleton, but yes. So it was super nice to chat with you, Maria.
Same.
We will talk again in 2 weeks. So thank you for having this conversation. And yes, and I wish to you and to all our guests and visitors to have a happy 2 weeks. And yes.
Happy Easter for those of you celebrating.
Happy Easter also. Happy Easter, of course.
Okay.
Good.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.